part of what I do is research, and we might run experiments or do studies, and I don't think people always know what that means or what it looks like, because there's all sorts of ways of collecting data and looking at things. So one thing that I like to do is something called a meta-analysis, which sounds, what is that? What does that mean? But it means collecting studies that have already been done and putting their findings together and is seeing what the pattern and trend is. Because there's maybe a lot of studies out there that sometimes people found this or sometimes people found that, and they found different, they try to put it all together and say, well, what's really happening here? What's the overall pattern? So it's kind of a statistical technique, it's kind of a research method that doesn't involve me going out collecting data, but collecting other people's research and putting it together. And I love doing these because they find a patterns easier. Rather than just doing one more study, you can see, and that's where I did some of my gender and negotiation research to see what's the pattern across hundreds of different studies. What do we see? Because sometimes it's conflicting. There's conflicting messages. Look at studies like, so I've done several meta-analyses in negotiation. How does having a goal help you? What have people found in the research? What's the difference between men and women in terms of how they behave and what kind of outcomes they look at? I've also done studies where I've gone out and done experiments, where I put people or ask people to participate in different scenarios and situations and see how they respond or what kind of things they think of. And those are really interesting, too, to trying to set up something where you're controlling certain aspects and letting other aspects be changeable. There's other kind of studies where you're giving people surveys and saying, tell me what your life is like not right now and how does that relate. So there's lots of different ways you can get our data and try to understand it. And I think by looking at people in the field, by looking at people in more of a controlled laboratory setting or looking at meta-analyses, they all give us different pieces of understanding about what's happening with human behavior and how people are thinking.